What's up, everybody? Welcome to The Revival. My name is JJ, and today I'm reviewing Parasite Eve for the original PlayStation.
Whoa. Hang on. Did you say Parasite Eve on the original PlayStation?
Hey, look who it is. It's Adrian from the Just a Bit Gaming Podcast. What's up, man?
Well, I just finished Parasite Eve, and if you're doing a review, I want in.
Sounds good to me. I guess I can have you help me review it for just a bit. Right? Because your podcast is just a... Alright then, so what system did you play it on for this playthrough?
I played it on this perfect little portable device, the PlayStation Vita.
Solid. I played it on the original PS1 disc on my PlayStation 3.
Well, sounds good. Should we do this?
Yes. Let's. The first time I remember playing Parasite Eve on the original PlayStation, I was about 15 years old and obsessed with Squaresoft. My love for the Final Fantasy series grew into a desire to play every Square game I could find, because I knew it was most likely going to be heavily story-driven. Parasite Eve didn't look like most of the RPGs I'd played before. It took place in New York, featured guns in a modern setting, and you only controlled one character instead of a full party. Nonetheless, it said Squaresoft on the box, so I bought it without hesitation. I remember liking it for the most part, but I never did finish it back then. I think it had to do with me not fully understanding how the weapons, armor, and inventory system worked. I remember being all over the place with the upgrades, and had a mindset of higher numbers equals good, lower numbers equals bad. It was fine up until the end, when I was steamrolled by one of the game's final bosses over and over again, and with no way to go back and grind as I had only used one save slot, I had no choice but to give up unless I wanted to start over. Fast forward 20 years, and with growth, maturity, and a little help from some tutorials on the internet, I've finally been able to finish the game that had stumped me so long ago.
For me, Parasite Eve was a game that somehow eluded me when it originally released. I was big into the survival horror genre and tried every game I could. Some worked for me and some didn't. Parasite Eve was one that I thought would be a survival horror game in the same vein as Resident Evil, and I was hyped. I rented the game as soon as it came out, but didn't get far. I was intrigued by the gory cutscenes, and that opening was amazing. However, it wasn't quite what I expected. It didn't feel like the survival horror game that I was used to. For whatever reason, I just wasn't able to get into it. However, after returning it to the rental store, I kept thinking about what I had seen. I wanted to go back and play it again and actually change my perspective of the preconceived notions I had given it. It wasn't until 20 years later that I finally started it up again, and I'm so glad I did. Parasite Eve is a special game that has surprised me even today. The story, gameplay, graphics, everything comes together to create an experience that is truly unique and holds up well after all these years.
The story of Parasite Eve would probably sound like complete nonsense if you tried to explain it to someone who'd never heard of the game before. Basically, mitochondria in human beings are evolving at 10 times the normal rate of humans themselves, and are now at the point where they want to take charge. You've got Eve, the game's main antagonist, whose mitochondria are out to take over the world, and you play as Aya Bree, whose mitochondria are essentially rebelling against Eve's. Confused yet? Super simplified, you play as a cop who's trying to stop monsters from taking over Manhattan.
It reminded me a lot of the movie Akira. I found it to be a little bit difficult to follow with the scientific references, but understood well enough that it was a driving force for me to want to know more. Much like a traditional RPG, there are a lot of dialogue and cutscenes to propel the narrative.
Yeah, once I started playing the game again and actually paid attention enough to understand the dialogue and kind of pseudoscience behind everything, I was surprised at how fascinating I found it all. Even the side characters were intriguing. I found the subplot with Daniel trying to connect with his son while struggling to keep up with his work to be particularly interesting.
I also grew to care about Aya Brea and the supporting characters. As the protagonist, Aya is driven to stop Eve and fearless in her journey. She has this confidence and determination that I just find so admirable. Daniel Dallas was also a particular favorite of mine. His dedication to his work and son is commendable and really helps shape his character. As for the gameplay in Parasite Eve, I've always considered it a cross between RPG and survival horror, but now after playing through it for the first time, I believe this game to be all RPG. You spend your time exploring areas for new items and fighting battles with mutated creatures. There are also a few puzzles and opportunities for chatting with NPCs. The battle system itself is truly unique. Battles are random encounters that function like an active time battle system, similar to something you might find in a Final Fantasy game. A meter bar fills up, allowing you to make your attack, cast a spell, or heal your character. You're allowed to move freely within the battle area to try to dodge incoming attacks, similar to moving on the battlefield in a game from the Tales of series. You attack mainly using guns. Each gun has a specific range, rate of fire, and number of shots that can be taken in a turn. The range is shown with a wire sphere grid that circles Aya. If the enemy is within that sphere, you're allowed to take shots at it. The further away the enemy is, the less accurate your shots are. You have to choose your weapon wisely because these factors could make or break a battle.
I'll admit that initially I was a little worried about being able to control only one character for the entire game. Like I said, I come from playing party-based JRPGs where I get to control a whole bunch of characters and choose who I want to play with and stuff. But I think this game actually makes up for it with their in-depth item and equipment systems. I remembered not paying too much attention to this aspect of the game when I was younger, which eventually resulted in me not being able to complete it. Back then I took everything at face value, but never really got into trying to maximize stats or abilities. For instance, one of the abilities you can put on a weapon will determine how many shots are fired per turn. Sounds simple, right? At face value, you would think that 7 shots are way better than 2 or 3, which is exactly how I would play it back then. However, when you put both into actual practice, you'll see that the damage output is actually lowered the more shots you take. So at 7 shots I might do 15 to 20 damage per hit, but then at 3 shots I would be doing over 100 per hit. Not that 7 shots is a bad idea overall, because you can still use it to attack multiple targets if you want to spread that damage out. Basically, you have to gauge each situation and think about what will work best for the playstyle you want. Add in the fact that there are multiple weapon types, elemental properties, and buffs that you can add or transfer to and from different pieces of equipment, and you can see just how in-depth the combat in this game can be.
You also choose your mitochondrial powers to heal yourself and cast magic spells on the enemy. These spells use PE energy that recharges over time. Items can also heal and remove negative status effects, which brings up one small gripe of mine: the limited space for carrying items. Your carrying capacity can be upgraded as you level up Aya, but you will still be doing a ton of inventory management when new items are found or acquired through battles. There is a storage chest, but it is only found in the police station and not easily accessible when you need it.
The visuals in Parasite Eve hold up well if you've got some sort of an upscaling tool or if you're playing on an older TV. However, the bigger the TV, the more stretching and pixelated it becomes. Not that it's bad, it's just noticeable.
The polygonal characters and enemies are definitely dated, but still carry a level of personality that each character shows through their uniquely animated mannerisms and posture. Aya is swift and nimble, Daniel is heavy and slow, Maeda is lanky and awkward. These animations are impressive and help give life to the jagged polygonal designs of the time. The enemies carry a likeness to the mutated creatures they represent. While not particularly creepy or unsettling, they are effective in representing their real-life counterparts.
I played on my 55-inch and captured footage on my laptop with my Elgato, and on the TV it would look extremely pixelated, while on the smaller laptop screen it looked fantastic. So even though it was a little rougher on the eyes with the newer TV, you can see just how well built the game was back in the day. The cinematics are still stunning, and some of the cutscenes are brutal while at the same time absolutely fascinating to watch.
Character models aside, Parasite Eve definitely still has some of the best pre-rendered backgrounds the PS1 has to offer. Every new locale feels unique. From the opening scene within the Carnegie Hall, to the NYPD, to the Museum of Natural History, every location is lovingly painted to create an immersive cinematic experience. Snow covers the sidewalks in Central Park. Papers are strewn across the desks of the police department, and graffiti litters the walls of the buildings. Cinematic camera angles help drive the narrative effectively. Christmas is definitely in the air, albeit of a darker tone. All that being said, there is one problem. The cinematic camera angles change positions when you transition screens. This creates confusion as to where you are within the area. This usually isn't a problem until you explore larger areas that require backtracking. In the museum, for instance, I never could remember how to get back to a specific room. The multi-floored maze-like layout constantly changes camera angles in each screen, and most screens have more than one way out, and it was confusing to know which exit led where. I found myself wandering around until I got lucky with finding the next area I was supposed to go to.
The music in Parasite Eve holds up extremely well. The opening cinematic with the pan on the Statue of Liberty sets up one of my favorite tracks in the game, the main theme. The melodies definitely add a sense of mystery to the already present sci-fi and horror elements found throughout the game. I honestly can't think of any songs I disliked.
I agree. The music of Parasite Eve sets the mood perfectly. Melancholic tones mixed with an up-tempo beat create a sense of calm and urgency. Some tracks do become a bit repetitive, but it doesn't detract from the experience.
As for the sound itself, everything is on point. Running on concrete and hearing the clop-clop sound of Aya's shoes, and then walking over a patch of snow and hearing the sound change to a soft crunching just adds to the immersion.
Not to mention the gross wet sounds and creepy noises the creatures make. It may have been because I played it on the Vita, but those sounds really stuck out to me and added to the feeling of being engrossed in the world of Parasite Eve.
And there you have it, our joint review on... Nope, that makes it sound like we're reviewing weed. Our combined review on Parasite Eve for the original PlayStation.
Hey, thanks for letting me join.
Always a pleasure, sir. Would you recommend people checking out Parasite Eve if they get the chance?
I'm glad I had the chance to go back and experience this gem. It really is a unique experience. From the gameplay to the atmosphere and story, it's one deserving of your attention.
I could not agree more. I'll admit I was a little worried at first, just because I know when I was younger, it was a lot tougher for me to understand the systems and the mechanics behind it, but it took me by surprise this time, and I'm so glad that I dove back in. So yeah, I definitely recommend it as well. Adrian, where can they find you if they want to see more of your stuff?
Check me out on Just a Big Gaming Podcast on YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, or just go to jabgcast.com.
Definitely go check out Adrian's channel, Just a Big Gaming. And if I'm not mistaken, pretty soon we're going to be doing some sort of an in-depth spoiler discussion over on your channel.
That's right.
Awesome, so look for that in the near future. And as always, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And as I always say, keep on gaming.